Uh, let's see, announcements. The board met for 20 minutes in exec session prior to tonight's meeting. We discussed a legal matter, personnel matter, and some confidential student matters. And with that, we will move right on to recognition of school board director.
All right, thank you. This first one is mine. I am happy to share with you the books that are at your place are part of what has become a bit of a yearly tradition for us. January is School Board Director Recognition Month, and for a number of years, we have taken that opportunity to work with our school librarians across all our buildings and place in each library a book with your name in the dedication plate in the front of the book. We love that our librarians get to help us select great books to go into our library, and we appreciate your service as directors on our school board, and we think it's a very fitting way to say thank you and in appreciation for time and service to the school district. I invite you to take a look at them. And then after this evening, we'll be sure they move out to the libraries and onto the shelves for our students to use. Thank you.
All right. Are there any citizens' comments on agenda items online? Okay. We'll move right on to the enrollment staffing projection presentation.
All right. In front of you this evening, as well as up on our screens, this is an annual report typically done here at this time in January or February. And it's part of our central office work to both review and plan for the district. Vince, if you'll move it to the next slide. We always start taking a look. Union County, this is us, if you will. You see the Lewisburg Area School District comprised of Kelly Township, the borough, East Buffalo Township, and Union Township. Public education in Union County also includes neighboring districts. You see Mifflinburg to our west and portions of Milton and Warrior Run to our north. So looking more specifically at the student composition within the district boundaries of the Lewisburg School District, you'll see that what's put together for you, and as we typically do the report, we show over time the enrollment numbers. So you'll see there's 5 years of history as well as our current school year underway. We are charged by the state to submit our enrollments December 1st of each year. We here in the district take a monthly student enrollment measurement across all grades. Notice, please, a few more things on this chart. Our in-school enrollment has been relatively stable across time. Our e-school enrollment peaked with the pandemic, of course, and you can see the gradual, but definitely noted decline to just 16 total students using our e-school currently. Out of district placements likewise had been at higher number levels and have declined to the current number. Please notice the cyber charter school enrollment, and I'll be speaking to that here in a moment. But the numbers are there for you to see. The other piece I would just point out to you across the bottom, the last two rows, we have consistently been the source of education for the families and students that reside within our district boundaries, educating at this point 87.7% of our children to those choices of out of district, either cyber or private schools or homeschooling populations. 87.7% are with us. The majority are with us across our 4 buildings. Thank you, Vince. The font is tiny, the script is small. If it is larger on your iPads, or we can certainly share print copy that is larger. But let's take a moment and look at the cyber charter school information. The chart shows you the names of the cyber schools where there are currently students enrolled who live within our district lines. The information below the chart, and I chose to let the amount of information there reflect several years for you to see. Just under the schools listed, starting with 2017-18, you see the numbers of students enrolled, and it is disaggregated Reg Ed students and special education students for a reason. There is a difference in the charge rate for those students. So you see the per pupil amount. This is not a fixed figure. It varies from year to year, nor is this a figure we calculate. Our rate charge of 12,607, as you see in the first graph, and 22,479, set by the state using a formula. It is not the same across all districts, and it does reflect monies held by the state deducted from our basic education subsidy. So I do want you to see it as monies subtracted from our subsidy. They do not come into the district. This is money not realized by us. Move across the bottom of the slide. Take yourselves to the right-hand side and the 2 most recent years, 23-24, and the cost there of better than 800,000. And this year's, and as Kyle was good to remind me, hence the asterisks, this is projected at this point in time. As we're in the school year, the rate per pupil is set, but the numbers will fluctuate. What doesn't change, however, might be for your awareness again, where this total cost could be better than $933,439. So again, realized not by us and subtracted from our subsidy payments. Kyle, anything else that helps us with this piece?
Yeah, I could just explain a little bit about how it's calculated, if that's helpful.
Thank you.
The regular rate is basically a selected expenditures, the state has decided. It's a long list of expenditures, so I won't go through the whole list, but it's those selected expenditures divided by our average daily membership, and that's our regular rate. And then the special ed rate is a rate that the state has decided to multiply by our average daily membership to get our special ed average daily membership. And that is divided by our special ed selected expenditures, and that gets us to our special rate that is added to our regular rate. So those two rates are added together, and that gives you your special education rate.
Kyle, do you have the difference between what we spend per people in district and what we're paying out to a siren?
Yep, I do, but not right off the top of my head here, but I can get that.
Because I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we're spending that. in
No, it's
district,
closer to
correct?
14, yeah.
Because that would be, so if an out-of-district student wanted to come to Lewisburg, we would charge them, I believe the website is around
14,
yeah.
yep, I don't know exactly, but 14,000.
And
For regular education in the school. It says legal.
Correct.
And are these students, do they take the PSSAs? And do their scores then get attributed to us? Or,
They take the state assessments. They are not linked back to our scores.
okay,
Great question.
Or do we able to access a list of who's attending?
We do, we have those names, families, yes. Yes. Good questions. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, sorry, I was just observing the special education number has gone up.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, good catch. Okay. Vince, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right. The next several slides are specific to our enrollment on site. Read across the rows for each of the four buildings. Again, relative stability is our storyline. You'll see Kelly, Lintown, the middle school and high school. I began in the lower right-hand corner, each of last year and this current year, to disaggregate high school one step further. Add the two numbers together, they're all our students. But the 41 last year and the 50 this year represent the students opting for Sun and or attending early college through Commonwealth University. The impact of that, well, absolutely positive options and choices for our students does reflect in reduced numbers in our high school. And when I talk a bit about course selections or student enrollments in electives or sequence courses, 41 and 50 fewer students does have some effect. Go ahead, Vince. Here are things that, again, we track, we faithfully measure. We look at class size, we look at the number of sections. I reduced again to beginning the graph this year with just several back years. And you'll see again, the stability in K through 5, 7 teachers at each grade level. 6, 7, and 8, 6 sections of content per grade level. There were the years, the bump up of 8 sections, 21, 22, coming out of pandemic, wanting to address early learning and concerns for learning loss. There was 1 year with small enrollment, we reduced a grade 3, but our pattern has been to maintain the 7 at elementary and the 6 sections in middle school. The chart right below it shows, of course, the average class size. Average class size data. Again, our priority is to maintain relatively low class enrollments. And you can see across the years, we have been able to do that. If you take the far right column, of course, projecting to next year, it's easy enough to transpose in the existing grades and move them on to the next. There's always a bump up in middle school to class size when we reduce from 7 sections to 6 in the master schedule. The kindergarten number is a true projection. We have not had our registration process, so we don't know those numbers until we begin. But we are assisted in our effort of some advanced planning and projection with some information provided to us by PDE. If you'd go to the next. Accessible on PDE's website and specific to our school district. These are our numbers. To the top of the chart, actuals over time, and you can see the breakdown of grade level and the numbers. 24-25 highlighted this current year. This is what the projected numbers were for us. So I began to look at this and you see my very small pencil edition up above, but I wanted to highlight how close the state came to projecting our numbers. Go grade by grade. Sometimes we're a little higher. Sometimes the state is a bit higher. But all in all, there's a pretty good alignment of their projections to our actuals. So all I simply did was take their projection for next year of kindergarten at 122. And again, on the previous slide, divided by our 7 sections, we'll see how it plays out, but 17.4 students per kindergarten classroom would certainly be within the range of where we seek to keep our kindergarten enrollment. Those of you who work with statistics and analysis, the live birth cohort statistic has been used as the basis of PDE's work. But they do send along the following caveats. They can't predict if a parent decides to enroll at age 5 or age 6. We know that reality when we work with our families. Nor do we fully know until we go through processes what early intervention children begin school with us or continue in some special programming that may not be district programming. We know families make decisions about retention or acceleration. So the state points out that that could lead to variance in the numbers. And a true reality in our district, one additional caveat, there may be an increase or decrease in available housing within any particular school district. So while I see some reliability and validity in the numbers, they are just that, they are projections. I think the most sobering one that caught my eye is to read the bottom line across. I, for one, can't imagine 2033, 34 with just 97 students. But again, when you read the caveats and understand what factors go into these numbers, even the state says there's stronger statistical correlation in projections 3 to 4 years out, and beyond that, they feel there is less.
Yeah, does it incorporate moving? Like, do they incorporate in their algorithm or?
I cannot answer that for you definitively, but again, I think we could ruminate about
Right.
some additional things that could certainly affect the actual numbers. Good question.
So if we talk about out migration and in-migration at Geisinger a lot, so I know those statistics do exist anyway. We use projections all the time. The thing we always say at work is that you're more likely to die in central Pennsylvania than to move away. Sort of jokingly, but because people tend to live here a long time in their lives. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're having kids and sending them to kindergarten here. So,
Yeah.
but I know those numbers exist, Ashley, so
Okay.
I'd be surprised if they weren't putting them in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I was just curious of like district to district, right? You have your like local economy,
Sure.
and if they are able to be like, oh, maybe families have baby and they live in a different district, but then they're like, wait a minute, Lewisburg has great schools, let's move there.
Vince will go forward. We also always take count, if you will, within the structure of our school organization. And so as we examine staffing, there are a few slides here relative to us as the learning organization. You can see our administrative staff and the numbers holding very consistent over time. Go ahead. Our teaching staff, our professional staff. Again, the schools listed to the left, the numbers to the right, relatively same numbers over time. And I will point out incremental increases to support teaching and learning changes that take place either to support students or to offer new programming. Certainly examples come to mind as we look at programs like adding BCIT in our middle school, offering gifted as dedicated class pullout, As Mrs. Snyder presented in our last board meeting, when we see the need to support or innovate or bring forward, it does obviously affect staffing. The other thing, I compile this and look at all the decimal portions of teaching staff. I do point out, we share teachers across buildings. It's an interesting effort to calculate related arts teachers move back and forth. We have had world language teachers cross buildings. We share teachers and teaching assignments, which account for the kind of numbers that you see. Go ahead, Vince. Additionally, not everybody fits into that same large category of professionals. We have worked with contracts, we have worked with non-teaching professionals. The listing here to the left column is by no means all positions, but I use it to illustrate some more pieces about us. At one point in time, 2 school psychologists, because our special education coordinator was a school psychologist by certification. No longer that being the case with Mr. Richmond, we do contract out when we need the services of an additional school psychologist for evaluation purposes. Our buildings are staffed by school nurses, 3 of the 4. Speech therapists, this was a direct storyline this year. We had been employing contracted additional speech therapy services. When we lost that opportunity through attrition this year, we did move forward and we added the 2nd speech therapist under our own professional grouping. And our ELL speech or program specialists or ELL teachers, I always do point out that at middle school and high school, our ELL program specialists are serving students in a certified educational capacity part of their day and working with our ELL students in a second part of our day. So we do not have some of these specialties on site with us in our professional staff. We seek them out on an as-needed basis. We have had the need for hearing interpretation and have provided it. We have, as I mentioned, gone outside for speech, now with 2 on staff in our own organization. I've referenced the school psychologist. And the other change, many of you may remember, initially when we employed social workers, they wrote individual contracts with us. We have opted them into professional staff at this point in time. And this year we did extend a part-time contract in order to bring social work into our elementary schools. So they're accounted for here in this slide. The last one that's a disaggregated look at a section of staffing is to note our support staff. Please take a moment and review this information as well. Listed to the left are 10 equally important support staff positions in the district. They work with us daily. They make it possible for so much of our operations to go on. Our administrative assistants, our aides, down through the list, including our school police, and to the last entry item there. All of these people are so important to our work. We genuinely appreciate their service and their investment in our students as well. The last slide in the annual report are some summary statements and then a first look at what we have started initial conversations about for the coming school year. Our 13 grades serve an average of 140. Again, relative enrollment stability over time. We have what I would call predictable transients. We employ through hospitals, universities, the prison system, families come and families leave. But those positions are filled again. And so very often we don't see the variance in total numbers. We see the relative predictable stability in our class sizes. We may see an unusually larger class or smaller class by some numbers, but we maintain a relative stability. What is evolving, my second bullet again, is to draw attention to options. Our seniors have great opportunity to take advantage of, and I list them here for you. That result of choice and option leads to some smaller course enrollments at the high school. And we have never not been looking at our sequences. Our in-service day earlier this week was a great chance to sit in curricular departments and review at the high school level our offerings as well as our elective offerings. My bullet that follows says it is a deliberate process. Sometimes it's the routine hiring to replace a retirement or a resignation. Sometimes, as I've referenced earlier, it's adding as needs change or we seek to offer new programming, but always balancing that instructional initiative with vigilant and thoughtful consideration to our budgetary constraints. So again, we know that salary and benefits is the lion's share of our operating budget, and we're conscientious to that fact. Currently, board certified behavior analyst, a position we have considered over a number of recent years, student need driven. I propose that we review and consider a middle school assistant principal. We have reduced middle school English language teachers by resignation in October of this year. We should be looking at that and giving consideration there. Our athletic director currently working with us is under contract, and some school districts do indeed utilize contract work. That should be reviewed by us at this time as well. literacy coach at the elementary level. We know the importance of early literacy efforts, and I always continue to look at whether or not we are best serving our English language learners with teachers who have both content teaching duty and ESL support. So those are listed there tonight for first thoughts and further discussion. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have. Otherwise, please take time, review this as well at your opportunity, and we can always revisit.
I had a quick comment on that. I don't know if you can all hear me.
Yep.
Okay, so we do have a literacy coach right now, and we have a long-term sub at the 75% rate. So that's not a big add to the budget, the way a whole new position would be. We're funding that now. So I guess just putting on that list things we sort of are paying for now, like we're paying for a contract athletic director, as you mentioned, but we are paying for a literacy coach. So it's not an add the way we really would be adding and we need to think about the behavior analyst. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we have some board information under new business, so we have some policies for first read. So do I run through those quickly?
I can tell you the policies are there. The committee has been hard at work, and we ask to take them forward tonight, first reading.
Take a look at those, and I guess we'll vote on those probably next time. General operating budget for Sun Area Technical. Did you want to talk on that, Jordan?
Pretty status quo, nothing really to, obviously look over it. Nothing real noteworthy there other than just status quo. So if you have any questions, let me know. And if I don't know, I can certainly find out for you.
Okay. Next up, we've got the Special Olympics Unified Champion Schools Program that Ms. Moses is going to tell us about.
I am. I'm going to share with you that with Brad Richmond coming to work with us in the district, his familiarity with a great program, Unified Sports, more familiarly known to a generation of us as Special Olympics. This has great appeal to us as broadening inclusion and opening up opportunities for our students. It has community support, and what became our opportunity was to look at it here at this time, second half of this school year, as an intramural opportunity in our middle school. And I'm excited to share that with you. Students would be playing bocce ball. A number of districts around us at the high school level have this in place. This would be our inroad to start playing at middle school, and in an after-school coordinated effort with Special Olympics, supported financially through Special Olympics, as they want to see these programs come into districts and grow. I put it in front of you this evening. I think it's a great opportunity. Mr. Sokolzik, Mr. Phil Bauman, our social worker, would like to be involved, and Mr. Richmond's experience with it. I think we're positioned well to bring this forward. Thank you for letting me share.
Sure. Next up, we have the board president's report. Aaron, did you have one for us tonight?
This is a very quick thing. I just wanted to remind everyone, Kathy and I meet with the Green Dragon Foundation on a regular basis for their Strategic Initiatives Committee. And what that committee does is it reviews proposals from teachers and from the district or other staff members who are asking for monies that are typically allocated via designated endowed funds that the GDF has. So this is serving not only as a reminder to the board that we're always reviewing those and then we'll see those come forward as gift agreements, but also to remind the administrators and teachers and whoever else may be in the audience that it's a really great idea if those can come in well in advance of when some funding that is requested would be needed so that they can be considered in a timely fashion. And because the GDF likes to be able to allocate designated endowed funds for the purpose in every year. Thank you.
Superintendent's report?
I feel like all I've done is share tonight, but
The Moser showed you.
all right. We've been busy since our return from winter holiday. We have finished a semester, a second marking period if you are in our K-8 world. Report cards coming out this next week. We have a full calendar of winter sports underway. It's my hope you'll come out and support our student athletes at your opportunity. This week has been cold, and our maintenance staff works diligently on our heating and plumbing systems. We've had challenges. We're working hard in that area. And finally, as I already said earlier this evening, it's January, which means we begin to focus forward, not only the second half of this school year, but we work towards budgets and staffing and kindergarten enrollment and adoption of our own budget, Sun's budget, the CSIU budget. Those are all the many important things that we are working with here in our January. Thank you.
Board and liaison committee reports. Anybody have anything to report tonight?
Don't really have anything new from the CSA tonight. Thank you.
Sun didn't meet in January, so nothing to report.
Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything we need to hold up separate? Or,
Just a reminder, it's a revised.
oh yes, there is a revised personnel report. Everybody's had a chance to review that, so. We'll take a roll call vote, Stephanie.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraus,
Yes.
Dr. Mattis,
Yes.
Mr. Fetzer,
Yes.
Dr. Graham,
Yes.
Dr. Grant,
Yeah.
Ms. Haynes.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. With that, we move to citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Is there anything online? I don't see anybody here, so. We will move to director's comments. I also remind everybody that we have the public session committee as a whole right after this, so. It's my gentle way of saying, keep it short. Joe, you can start off if you'd like.
I mean, I don't have much to say other than thanks to the administration and the staff for continuing to do good work, and thank you to Mrs. Ironside for her service to us, however short, but we appreciate you and wish you luck.
Actually,
Yeah, no, we should. Thanks, Erin.
Yeah, I'll just say thanks to everyone who's keeping the buildings, trying to keep them heated appropriately and the parking areas free of ice and things like that. I know that's a big effort and it's not a do, so appreciate it.
The books are very fun. As always, it's, we always share a chuckle, so thank you for those and for the time that went into, speak for the board tonight.
I will also say thank you for the books. I will also do my yearly plug. At Giant right now, newspapers, at Giant right now, when you check out, there's an option to round up. And when you do that, those rounding up funds I don't know the exact date it goes to. In the past, it's gone till the end of March. Comes back to us here at the district and helps with food security matters, for students here in the district. So that's my little plug on that. I also just want to say I'm very, very excited about the bocce ball. This is not, I'm gonna get emotional, but it's a great opportunity for our students who are served through our special ed program, but it's also an amazing opportunity for general ed students to work with those students on a team and be team members. So yes.
All right. I'll reiterate the thanks for the books. They are kind of fun. Erin, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Stephanie for her service and ditto everyone else's remarks. I'm glad the buildings are warm and the kids didn't freeze on Tuesday morning.
All right. If nobody has anything else to add, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Does anybody need 2 or 3 minute break, or we want to roll right into the next portion? Sounds good. So, of course.
There you go.
So we'll go to the public work session, committee of the whole. Tonight's topic is going to be the comprehensive plan. Goal number 2, safety and well-being. And while we had the Kathy Moser show earlier, I believe this is going to be the Vince Hoover show for the second half here. So I will call the meeting. Is Erin on? No, she's still on.
Yep, she's in.
All right, so I'll call the meeting to order. And we will move right on to goal number 2, Vince.
Okay, thank you for letting me share and take over the show a little bit. So first I wanted to just point out that in November, we talked about goal 1, which was on student learning. And I talked about that at that point, but we did have an in-service day this past week. We focused on curriculum. The morning was focused on looking at our curriculum frameworks, and all of our teachers were working on that. And so continued work on goal 1 as we go through our comprehensive plan as well. But tonight we are looking at goal 2. We do have our mission statement kind of icon or graphic there on the screen as well. We belong, we explore, we learn. But goal 2 is on student and staff safety and well-being. And we want to make sure that our students are safe. And so that is a good segue to who we invited this evening, looking at safety and well-being. We invited our school police officers who are all donned in their outfits out there and they're in their uniform, which is awesome. But among them, between them, they've got 88 years of experience in law enforcement, each of them 25-year state troopers, state police officers. And so having them on staff has been fantastic. Shipman and Kurtz have been here with us for the past 6 years, and Laskowski is almost at 1 year. And so we love them to come on up and stand up and kind of share a little bit about who they are, just give you a face, name recognition, but also ask them to kind of share kind of what do they do on a daily basis as they're interacting at our schools. So I don't know who wants to go first. You're all up there, but
you like us.
right there is great. That's perfect. But yeah, just introduce yourselves and kind of tell us what does a day in life look like for a school police officer.
Mike Chipman. My day usually starts out pretty early, depending on what school I go to. With the 3 of us, we sometimes have to split up buildings. So if ski's over at Flinttown, I start my day at 7:15 at the middle school. I stand out the traffic line, make sure the kids are getting out of the cars okay, nobody's getting run over. After that, I do perimeter of the building, check doors, and look for any suspicious objects outside, anything out of the ordinary. Then I come in, do an inside lap, hang out, talk to the kids. Then it's into the computer unless something pops up, check an email, making sure I'm not missing any meetings, anything like that. And then through the day, just again, making rounds through the school. I help out with lunch duty at the middle school, so getting to interact with the kids in the cafeteria. I also go outside with them at recess due to a lot of kids being in one outdoor open space. And then everybody comes in, And it's, again, just continuously checking the doors, making sure kids aren't running through the hallways, playing grab butt, whatever they do. So, and then at the end of the day, I stand outside. Mrs. Mosher, you had to expect me to say something.
The middle school.
End of the day, I stand outside, again, when the kids are loading. And then I come back inside as we still have buses running and I assist with the bus duties.
Appreciate that.
Randy Kurtz, maybe I'll start out more of a personal note as far as that goes. I actually, did not grow up in the Lewisburg area. It's actually a Warrior Run area. My affiliate was Lewisburg, I guess would be maybe my mother. He's a 1959 graduate of Lewisburg. I've been married for 31 years, 3 kids, 2 grandchildren, 25 years with the Pennsylvania State Police, 7 different barracks throughout the career. Retired in 2018 as a patrol supervisor. Took a year off, brought myself to Lewisburg. I've been here since 2019. Probably a lot of things that Mike just said kind of fits into my day as well. Start out in the mornings, get the kids in, usually the high school. Kelly Elementary is 1 hour behind. When Wayne's not at Kelly, I am. So we kind of fill in the blanks there. So I, see the kids in the mornings. Migrate back over the high school. There seems to be more problems at the high school than Kelly. But high school has been my main focus. Throughout the day, there's always pickups like any other high school. Lewisburg's not immune to that. Safety has always been all of our career, lookouts. We look out for the safety of the public and now safety of the staff, the kids, and everything that goes along with this district, whether it's on the bus or within the buildings. Here we are.
So I get to do over because I didn't do the beginning.
Feel free.
I'm a Hughesville guy. Joined the military after high school, did 4 years in the military. Had a job shortly as a corrections officer. I have a wife, Sarah, been married 27 years, 2 daughters. One's going to be graduating from Bloom. The other one's down in Florida with a marine science, working on her degree. While I was a prison guard, applied for my dream job, which was to become a trooper. Here I am. So sorry I missed that part. No, I didn't realize we were.
That's all me.
You should have told me. You're the head guy.
No.
Hello, I'm Wayne Laskowski. Obviously, I'm the newest police officer here in the district. I'm from Southern Columbia, where I went to high school, as Kathy knows very well. After high school, I attended Kutztown University. I attained a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology. And like my dream since I was a little kid was to be a state trooper. Thankfully, I was able to accomplish that. I spent basically my entire career at Milton. I was a patrol trooper there for 21 years. When I decided to try to get promoted, I got promoted, was fortunate enough to go to Selinsgrove as a patrol supervisor. I'm like, Randy, when I go to Chambersburg, like what, 2 hours away. So I was in Selinsgrove for 3 months, transferred back to Milton. So basically, aside from 3 months, I was at Milton my entire career. So obviously, I'm very familiar with the Lewisburg area, Lewisburg School District. I knew when I retired from the state police in 2020, I even said during my retirement speech, at some point, I want to be a school police officer in a good school district. Obviously, Lewisburg is a great school district. I knew Mike and Randy very well from working with them. Randy and I worked together like 23 years as troopers, as corporals. So when this job opened up, I was ready to come back and do something meaningful. And so I applied, and thank God you're all kind enough to hire me. So thank you for that. But similar to these guys, I'm also married. I've been married for 27 years. I have 2 awesome kids. My son's 26, my daughter's 25. But like these guys said, a lot of what we do is similar in the schools, but obviously each school has their own, like small nuances that are different. So primarily, I'm at either Kelly or Lintown. So days I'm at Kelly, in the morning I go out for parent drop off. Obviously, there a lot more parental interaction with us. So I get to talk to a lot of parents, which is nice, get a lot of positive feedback. So then also I'll meet with the secretaries, I'll meet with their principal, see is there anything going on I should be aware of with students or potential issues with parents. And then throughout the day, numerous times, walk around the building, make sure everything is secure, the doors. I'm always interacting with the students, both in the hallways, in between classes, before and after, they have lunch. Just kind of get to know them, because you figure, like, for most of these kids, their first interaction with a police officer is gonna be one of us. So that's important, that's positive. They know that we're there to help them, you know, we're there for their safety. I also talk to the teachers, administration, you know, just so everybody knows that we're there for them. So, and then also, a few times throughout the day, I'll check the security cameras, make sure they're all functioning correctly, everything's working well. Like they said, go outside, check the outside of the perimeter, make sure there's no unauthorized people there, nothing suspicious. And then at the end of the day, again, go out for parent pickup. And Lintown's similar, it's not quite as many students, obviously, or as much interaction. But the one thing I did want to mention is because on days of McKelly, and because I'm there like all day, I do have quite a bit of interaction with the parents, which is a positive thing. And I've had like so many parents come up and like see how thankful that the three of us are that we're in the schools. And a lot of them like don't really know our background. So like they'll ask me like, you know, what's your background? When I tell them that the three of us are retired state troopers, like there's a lot of happiness with that, and they're like thankful. Because I had a mother just last Wednesday at Kelly. She asked me like what my role is and my background. I explained everything. And she says she has another student, she has one student at Kelly and then one at Meadowbrook. And she said at Meadowbrook, they don't have any police officers, no security. And something happened. She didn't say what specifically, but something happened that was like alarming to her. So talking to me, she's like had that reassurance that like here, we are here, our presence is like our officer presence is everywhere. So she said she was very thankful for that, knowing that at least in this school district, like her kids are safe. So I just wanted to point that out. And I would imagine that parents in all the schools feel that way, but because I have more interaction with the younger parents, they kind of like convey it more than maybe the older parents do.
Just to reiterate on something you just said there, but first impressions, you know, it kind of spiked a memory here with there was a Hispanic girl that got into a lot of trouble when she was a freshman. And this was probably, I think this was my first year here. I didn't know who she was. We had a coffee cart here at the high school and they would sell hot chocolate and coffee. I think I went up there and there were, I don't know, 3 or 4 girls there. I said, hey, it's all me, let me buy this. I didn't know who they were. Well, she ended up graduating. She goes, you remember the first time I met you? I said, no. She goes, you bought me a hot chocolate. You know, so that just kind of stuck with me. You know, it's just the small things like that, small things grow into something big. You build a relationship with the kids, you know, they gain your trust. They, you know, obviously they're, you know, they don't want to be the rat. They don't want to tell all their buddies and stuff like that. But I think a good relationship with a police officer is pretty big.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for sharing. If you guys want to hang out for the rest of the presentation, I can, if I'm, to be honest, make sure I'm telling the truth here. But we appreciate you guys sharing.
I wasn't sure if that was being sarcastic.
No, you definitely stay for a few more minutes and then we can get you guys out of here.
Can I say something really quick? It's what's really nice also is that the officers are at a lot of our events, our sporting events, even just sort of other extracurriculars you'll see them at. And so there's a lot more opportunities to interact with parents. And I think people recognize them, especially people who have children who are late a lot. So it's nice that you're always, I would say not just the first interaction, but I'd say I've never had a bad interaction. And I don't hear very many kids that have anything but a positive interaction, and they recognize you and they appreciate that you are coming to the games and stuff.
So I just wanted to go through all of our objectives that are in our comprehensive plan, and kind of give you kind of some updates on what happened and things we've been doing and staying busy. So one of the first objectives in this goal is to review and update our emergency operations plans and our threat assessment plan. And we've in September. I worked on that with our administrative team. This is a binder that we have in each of our buildings that has a plan, our EOP plan, as well as the threat assessment plan. And these are all in each of our buildings. This is how we evacuate our buildings and how we do different emergencies, different drills and things like that. And so this is out there in our buildings. Principals are aware of that, and we're contributing as in the creation of that. On the 30th of that month, we also facilitated our annual safety council meeting. We bring in all of our officers as well as our administrators, as well as outside law enforcement from Buffalo Valley, Kelly Township, from Bucknell. And we pull in this room, we have some conversation about safety practices, things that we're looking at doing, and get their input on the community. And so that's always a good meeting to, as we talk about things that we're thinking about. And we feed them lunch, and just a good atmosphere to talk about safety of our buildings and things that are coming down the pike. You can see the table of contents that is listed there as well from this plan. And things that we're working on next is to update our evacuation and reunification plan. We have our reunification plan. If something where we need to exit our building and then reunify with parents again, we have that plan. We want to update that for the coming school year. And so I've got a good template right now to kind of revamp that a little bit. And so that is a next step for myself as well as the administrative team. Now working with our officers as well. But any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to interject. Next up, we did have the goal of looking at our safety and security inspections. And back in 2022, prior to being here, we did kind of work with the state police to do inspections, what they call an RVAP, a risk and vulnerability assessment, RVA. And we had those, I have one of those examples here, going through lots of different safety recommendations for us to consider. And then this past September, we had Dr. Kremser from the Center of Safe Schools come to each of our buildings and spend basically a half day at each building, and then took some time to evaluate, and he brought all those pictures together. And we have reports. This is one report from one of our buildings. And then we got a chance to, Kathy and I, our officers, our administrators, got to review those assessments into making sure that we had recommendations to look at and what can we do moving forward. So some of our current next steps is we do have a camera and door access project that is happening currently. The camera installation project from one of our grants. We're going to be adding about 90 cameras across the district. But we did the middle school and we did Lintown, and they've moved now to Kelly, and then the high school was the last building. Adding a lot more cameras and re-aiming certain ones, recalibrating some, replacing them, and also adding a bunch of 360 cameras into all of our hallway cross roads, so they get better coverage as well. As well as recommendations from these assessments. We're putting those things into practice. So what are some things we can do without any cost or just a little cost, and as well as some things that are going to take a bigger amount of money to cover. And so we've kind of prioritized those at a meeting this past week, and looking to put some of those things into action over the coming months. Questions on the inspections or the assessments that were done? I'll keep moving along. Another goal we had, or objective we had, is making sure that every student can identify a trusted adult, making sure they feel safe here in our building, and they know at least somebody, hopefully multiple people. And this is kind of a legacy of Paula Reber as a high school principal here. This idea of a trusted adult, she kind of used that verbiage, and that's kind of an homage to her. But at Kelly and Lintown, there's lots of people that are that trusted adult. First off, it's that classroom teacher that they have at Kelly and Lintown. The teacher knows them by name. They're often doing kind of morning greetings and morning meetings as well. We've got school counselors that I'll mention throughout this presentation that are a big part of having that strong well-being of our students. Our related arts teachers know all of our students by name, and they try a different lens for those students, as well as our aides knowing our students very well. At our middle school and high school, at our high school, we have advisory teachers that occur throughout their 4-year stay at the high school. That advisory teacher is consistent. And so they're building relationships every year and getting a deeper and deeper relationship. And relationship building just with our classroom teachers and our content area teachers is always happening. Our teachers are very involved with extracurricular activities, coaching or assistant coaching or volunteer coaching. And so they are involved with our student population as well. So that's a thing that's happening as I'm losing power here. I'll keep going here. And then we wanted to look at making sure our students felt like they were ready to learn. Go ahead, Justin.
Sorry, how are we assessing that, the previous slide? How are we assessing how are we confirming that every student can identify a trusted adult?
It's a great question. So a little easier to do at the elementary because they have a classroom teacher there. At the high school, something we did, I believe, about a year ago is we put all of those students onto a list in front of our faculty and said, we want you to go through this list and put a check mark if they are someone that you have a solid relationship with, you know something about them. Put a dash if you know something about them, but you don't, not quite as formal as that first one. And then try to identify, is there students there that we don't have a trusted adult for, and then we want to make sure, we're kind of meeting that. And so something we did, I think they did that last year. We want to make sure we're doing that again and again with our new administrators here at the high school.
And how do we define trusted adult? What are we telling the student we're actually trying to identify? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think having a relationship with them, so knowing something about them, and they feel comfortable coming to that teacher.
Okay.
So they have someone outside of their home that they can have a conversation with.
Yeah.
And I think building a relationship with them and not just having them in class, but also knowing something about them. That rapport is there, and that's something that we always kind of focus on. Got anything to add to that? Is where that kind of came
Your
from?
answer is spot on. Does the student feel they could go to that person and share, speak, vent, lament, whatever, but that there is that connection is good.
I would just add in, we've been, years ago, right, the district read How Children Succeed, the book. And in that book, it describes the nature of the relationship, having exactly as we said, right, every single student in the district should have an adult that can say, yes, I know something about that person. But in the book, it really details what the nature of, like, I know something personal about them. They would feel comfortable coming to me. There's several other things that are the sort of criteria for saying that this is a meaningful relationship where that student will be comfortable going to that adult. So it's a good book if you all haven't read it, How Children Succeed.
And then how do we, if we identify a student that can't, I mean, I don't know that that's happened, but that can't identify a trusted adult, what is our response to that?
Yeah, that's something that we need to look at, I guess. And I think talking with our principals and our administrators about how we go about that. Our counselors are very involved with some of those students that don't potentially have as many trusted adults or people that they can go to. And so those are students that may come to a lunch bunch and we would start to build those relationships. We get to know them a little bit better in that capacity.
Yeah, kind of just add, because I think to Justin's point, there might be students who teachers know. Like, I remember when I was a teacher, like, I knew all my students, I knew things about them, but I know that some of them were going through a rough time and they didn't want to come talk to me because I was the disciplinarian in the classroom. And so I can imagine, especially in like the middle school level, that being a problem where you have students who are, teachers know them, people know them, but like, do they feel comfortable actually going to folks?
And at the middle school level, we do have your related arts teachers that there is a different capacity. It's not a true, it's a true content area, but it's not as maybe as intense as maybe an English class or a math class might be. A phys ed teacher, as well as our counselors and our social workers that we have there as well. So there are additional individuals in each of our buildings that are potential trusted adults. But that's a good point. As a different perspective or different lens that you take as a teacher. Next one up here is making sure that we've got practices in place to make sure that students are ready to learn. And so for this, we wanted to look at like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and are we making sure that our physiological needs are being met? And so on this bottom kind of tier, this foundational basic needs, we looked at some of the things we do offer here at the district, and we do have universal free breakfast, so it's addressing some of our food and water needs. We've got snack packs that are available to our students. We've got the creation of a food insecurity endowment happening this year, as well as lifting of Lewisburg funds that we utilize for when there is a need for a student that might need clothing or might need something, someone might need something, those funds kind of go and serve that need. So we're trying to making sure we're filling those physiological needs. And then as far as safety, we talked about safety today. We want to make sure we have those secure facilities where we put stickers on our exterior doors that say "Stop the Prop," making sure that our staff, our students aren't propping doors. And so as a reminder to them, our substitute teachers, anyone who's in our buildings, so that they're aware of that. Having 3 school police officers across our 4 buildings, as well as doing drills that our students are comfortable with, doing fire drills and with doing intruder drills. They're comfortable with what those things are. They know what ALICE is as an acronym. And then getting into belonging, as part of our mission statement, there is some intentional culture building things that were happening. Our advisory time that we have in our middle school and high school, they have the club offerings that we have, as well as just the variety of sports that we have in the middle school and high school, is helping to making sure that they feel like they found their niche. We'll talk about it more of the next goal, but we did get a chance to do 2 student forums at the high school. And those groups were sharing that there's a place for everybody, that they felt like most students can find their niche of students as well as their place in the building. And it's easy to kind of find their spot, either with the students, with the musical students, or if it's with sports, or if it's with the bowling team, or even the volleyball club that happens as an advisory, or things that were shared. They can easily find kind of their place. And it's done by doing intentional events and things like that. Moving on here to making sure our staff feel like their well-being is being taken care of. Last week, we did a wellness seminar for our staff. We had about 15 people that attended. We had about 8 here in person and about 6 online. And we looked at some wellness topics. That was a good turnout. I was happy with that. We've got a wellness challenge happening in early February, and another one happening, a walking one in March, where we're going to be a team aspect of counting steps. We've got an employee assistance program looking at the mental health of our staff. They're aware of that. We always mention that to them. Their opening day of the school year, as well as additional culture team building events that our staff have after the end of the school day. At the middle school, they have what they call culture events, which is just kind of team building activities that take place, making sure staff feel like they want to be here and making sure we're addressing their well-being as well. Moving on, as we're looking at our MTSS and specifically more of the behavioral side of our interventions, some things that we're putting in place and have in place at Kelly and Lintown. I mentioned earlier, we have many classrooms that have morning meetings that take place as a check-in period for that teacher in that class, and they're checking in to see how they're doing. It gives them an opportunity and a space to share how they're doing. Many of our Kelly classrooms, when they're walking in the door, they kind of pick their morning greeting, how they want to be greeted by their teacher, if it's a fist bump or if it's a high five or if it's a hug. They kind of have that greeting interaction that takes place, that kind of that ritual each day. We've got guidance lessons that happen at Kelly and Lintown. And as I mentioned, lunch bunches happen with student groups that are very specific, as well as making sure that all students get a chance to do a lunch bunch as well. So I know at Kelly Elementary, our counselors are trying to reach out and make sure everybody has that experience, to make sure we're not missing anybody and make sure they have some of that conversation that is not in an academic nature, but just the ability for them to share how they're doing in a less threatening environment, potentially. At the middle school, we've got some SEL lessons that are happening. We use Second Step as a curriculum. Those are happening weekly during an advisory block. We have a program this year called BASE. Go ahead.
Sorry, what's SEL? What's SEL?
SEL is social emotional learning. as an acronym. We use a lot of acronyms in education. BASE is an acronym as well, but it's a program that we utilize. It's some online videos that we can utilize for students that may have broken the rules, and we've got videos that are specific to that infraction that can help them think about better choices. And so those have been utilized this year at the middle school. Listening Post is an initiative through Bucknell that some students are coming and getting trained, and then being able to be available during lunches for our students to share with them as another potential person to open up to and just have a listening ear for our middle school students. Some things that are happening as far as behavioral interventions at the high school, we've got things like Link Crew. As we bring new students in as freshmen, they have comfortable people and other students that they get to know. Our advisory blocks that I mentioned, our gold program, are focusing on the girls, making sure that they feel that they have a space and a time to learn about themselves. And some additional interventions that are taking place. It's a little harder to do SEL or social emotional learning curriculum at the high school. But if there is curriculum out there, we're always looking at if there's something available that we can do in that advisory block that would focus on that. But it's a little easier to do at the elementary and middle school levels, but a little harder at the high school. And then some mental health providers, making sure we're partnering with them. And I talked about this at our previous meeting. Some things we do have in place, as I mentioned before, our concern is our in-school or our in-person mental health counseling. We've had them coming on site for those counseling session. Gaggle is our virtual teletherapy sessions. We've utilized those the past, I believe, in 2 years, Kathy, correct? And then our new partnership is starting February 3rd is the Monday. And we've done training this month since the last board meeting. We've got another training tomorrow for administrators because they'll be involved in that approval process once students are referred. Our counselor training is the following week, making sure they know how to refer and utilize the platform. And so that is happening this month and then starting in February. We've got our crisis, our CMSU that does some behavioral and drug and alcohol services. They come to our SAT meetings and are available for our student assistance program. And we haven't used this as much, but the Geisinger has a bridge clinic. We got a couple students referred to that. If there is some a psychologist needed or some psychiatric care needed, as kind of a gateway to some services there. And we've used that not as much as some of these other things, but that is another partnership that we have currently for middle school and high school primarily. Questions on mental health counseling or anything from Cartwheel that you thought of since the last meeting that you had questions on? Okay. And those are the objectives that are listed in goal 2, and it's just giving you an update. There's still some more work to be done. But we're looking to continue to update you throughout over time as well. But again, this is an open forum to have more conversation. If there's things that we need to consider and look at, have some more conversation, we can do that now or feel free to share.
Do you have anything for the?
I had one thought.
Yeah.
I mean, back to the whole trusted adult idea, and maybe this has been said, but to say to students the value of having a trusted adult relationship in the building, so that if a particular student feels as though they don't have one, they can also play a part in pursuing and developing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just kind of, I know it sounds great, but there's always gonna be that kid who gonna hold back or not feel like they can bring concerns and troubles forward. So if someone in a position of authority sort of says, we want you guys to come to us if you've got something weighing on you, you know, and that, whether it be the counselor or, but that might be a way to bring some of the students who are holding back forward. I don't know, that's just something that occurred to me.
That's a good point. Helping them be a part of that and be a catalyst to that and to share. That's a good point. Thank you.
I remember when Paula first talked to the board about that process that she used, and I remember her saying at the time that the goal was to have not just one check mark by every student, so that there were hopefully multiple adults in the room that really knew what was going on with the student. And I guess the thought process there is, because it's certainly easier to ask adults what you know intimately about a child and what's going on in their life than it is to walk up to a teenager and ask them on a random Wednesday how comfortable you are talking to, you know, anybody, or if you have somebody. I think the thought process, and you guys that are experts can tell me, but I would say that in a real stressful situation where a kid was having a crisis, the hope would be that if there were 3 or 4 check marks on that board, that one of those people would be somebody they would reach out to in a real stressful scenario, rather than just asking them on a random day where if they had somebody they thought they could go talk to. Clearly, there are examples all over the country on any given day that show that doesn't always work, but I don't think you would find in a lot of those places that there's as much intentional effort to make sure that there are adults that know something about kids as what goes on a regular basis here. At least that's the hope, because I've always thought that was one of the more important things we actually did, especially at the high school level, to sort of create a culture and to create that avenue, like you said, so that, you know, that all of that was before the Safe to Say apps and all of those things came about. But the idea is to create as many avenues as possible for somebody to say something prior to a bad event occurring.
We did have our student forum, via 2 of them this past month, and one of the questions that we asked to the 2 very different high school groups that we pulled together was, do you feel like you have a trusted adult? And they were kind of sharing who those people might have been, classroom teachers, and a lot of them mentioned our social worker, Mr. Curry at the high school, as he's someone who's going into classrooms to do lessons on various topics, and also just available to have a conversation. So he's been a phenomenal resource for our students here. Some of those he's taken for a quick walk as they want to just share something. He mentioned that he often takes a student on a walk over to Kelly and then back as a place they're moving, and then they're more willing to share and open up and tell how they're feeling. So I just wanted to mention him as well as our 8 counselors throughout the districts that we have. It's not always typical to have that many counselors in each of our buildings, and so our social workers, even at the middle school, Mr. Ballman, it's an additional person that they feel that they can go to, and maybe isn't that disciplinarian in the classroom or the principal, some additional people that interact with them too.
Yeah, I think for me, that was something coming up for me between the like trusted relationship part and then also thinking about the multi-tiered system of supports that you have sort of when a student is struggling with something, right, and it's coming out in the behavior, right? What's that? Who's that person that's kind of coming in? What's that process to kind of figure out what's going on? So it's not just like, okay, discipline, fine. It's like, okay, wait a minute, like you're having an issue in class, like, is that because something's going on at home or?
And we do have another thing that I didn't mention before. We have an MTSS referral process happening at Kelly Elementary. Our literacy coach, Mrs. Arian Frake, is helping to lead. But our teachers, once they're working and they're seeing academic or behavioral things, they can make a referral, and then they bring a group of people together to have some conversations about students and what can be done, what supports can be put in place to help the student. And that dialogue that's happening is thinking about kids and talking about kids, just seeing how we can support them is also taking place as well. So in the MTSS framework. So.
And even at the middle school, right, in their team meetings,
Sure.
There's a lot of, I know, as a parent, when I've gone to the teachers, they've been like, let me talk to the team when we talk about students, and it seems like there's a lot, I don't know, it seems like our teachers are always in communication with each other about things that they might be seeing with our students. And I don't think every place is like that. I think that's something we do well.
Anybody else have anything for the good of the group?
Oh, I wanted to ask, has the new chief of Buffalo Valley reached out? I mean, he won't get in trouble if he hasn't, but have you heard from him?
I actually met him at the building. I was over there for some training.
Okay, good.
He's from Lycoming County, I think he came from Southside.
Yeah.
He's very, their officer stuff at the middle school in town all the time, so, we have a pretty good relationship with Buffalo Valley.
Yeah, he was actually a local police officer in Milton too for a while.
Yeah, I think
He's
we
known
can.
for years, many years.
He's a very good guy.
Thank you.
And officers, thanks for coming. We appreciate your time here. Feel free to make your exit. But thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks, guys.
Next up, a brief update from the Community Relations Committee. Is that you, Justin?
Apparently. I'm gonna leave.
It's gonna be very brief.
There is
Is there maybe there's not a brief update tonight?
now this evening.
It's just as well there's nobody here to update.
It's only 2 weeks old,
Yeah.
you know. We gotta give it a little time.
All right. Any citizens' comments? You're only citizens tonight.
Yeah, just the Special Olympics, is that something that you're gonna be voting on at a later meeting or?
It's an intramural, it's not a voting.
Okay.
It's an opportunity to start something, an extension in our middle school. Goes to say we're gonna get started.
Okay, so that'd be something that I'd love to come out to and
Sure,
get some coverage for you.
sure thing.
And for the Suntech budget, how much is the proposed budget and when are you voting on it?
Suntech?
Yeah, for Suntech.
Well, there's information tonight, so typically it comes up at the next meeting for a vote after it's been presented for
And I think the budget was on that form we had, right? It was like stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, is it linked on the agenda?
It
It's
is.
on the agenda.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'm sorry.
Anybody have anything before we go? Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, Erin.
Aaron, when are we,